Donald Trump's governing by executive order continued this week, most notably with two executive orders dealing with how transactions are processed through the general fund, which the White House describes as America's bank account. The two executive orders were signed on Tuesday, the 25th, and were called Protecting America's Bank Account Against Fraud, Waste, and Abuse and Modernizing Payments to and from America's Bank Account. Both executive orders are on WhiteHouse.gov in case you'd like to read them, and the second one is what requires the Treasury Department to phase out paper checks by September 30th of this year. Both of these executive orders aim to give the Treasury Department greater power and control. That includes control over intragovernmental payments, benefit payments, vendor payments, and tax refunds. Federal agencies will also be required to transition to EFT methods, including direct deposit, prepaid card accounts, and other digital options. According to a fact sheet also on WhiteHouse.gov, the reasoning for these executive orders is that President Trump is cracking down on waste, fraud, and abuse in government by modernizing outdated paper-based payment systems that impose unnecessary costs, delays, and security risks. This reasoning is spelled out in more detail on the Protecting America's Bank Account executive order. The Department of the Treasury is the largest financial payment manager of the federal government and is responsible for safeguarding the general fund, but lacks sufficient controls to track transactions flowing through the general fund to determine if they were proper, to enforce sufficient controls, and ensure accountability to American taxpayers. The Department of the Treasury requires financial information from executive departments and agencies beyond what they currently provide. So, what do we make of all of this? Here are four quick takeaways from what I can see. First, the phasing out of paper checks by September 30th, just 6 months from now, seems like a very quick deadline for such a major overhaul to how the government handles payments. This tells me that there are probably more executive orders coming that will be related to this, perhaps specifically tied into additional digital verification methods for programs such as Social Security and Medicare. Second, the fact sheet on WhiteHouse.gov does explain that there will be exceptions made. Exceptions will be made for people without banking or electronic payment access, certain emergency payments, certain law enforcement activities, and other special cases qualifying for an exception under the order or other existing law. In those cases, individuals or entities qualifying for an exception will be provided alternative payment options. However, nothing is stated how this would be determined or how to apply for the exception. It also doesn't state what the payment alternatives will be. This, again, points to additional executive orders coming down the pike that will have specific requirements that have to be met in order to qualify for an exception. Third, of special note, the fact sheet states that this executive order does not establish a central bank digital currency, CBDC. A central bank digital currency is a digital currency issued by a central bank. It would likely be implemented via a database run by the central bank or the government itself. The database would keep a record of the amount of money held by every single entity, whether a corporation or a person. However, just because these executive orders didn't specifically establish a central bank digital currency, it doesn't mean that they're not a step in that direction. This tells us we'll need to keep an eye out for additional executive orders that are related to this. Fourth, the elimination of paper checks by the government is another step toward having a digital currency, and the September 30th deadline is an indication of how serious this administration is. If we also remember the recent elimination of the penny and the talk of eliminating the nickel, we can see how cash itself is being attacked from all sides. There is an effort to remove cash and paper checks from society, slowly but surely. About 2 years ago, I talked about reverse ATMs, which are essentially the opposite of a traditional ATM. Instead of dispensing cash, however, the customer gets a prepaid debit card. I'm going to replay that short video right now. There was an interesting story on Axios yesterday detailing how many stores have been installing what are called reverse ATMs, which dispense store value cards in exchange for paper money. A regular ATM, of course, gives us money when we put in our debit or credit cards, but reverse ATMs do the exact opposite. These machines take our paper money and give us a prepaid plastic card in return. The net result of this is that there is less cash in circulation with consumers as the average citizen is slowly weaned off of paper money in favor of using a prepaid plastic card. Those who follow Bible prophecy might think this is a bit reminiscent of the mark of the beast, which most believe will involve a digital currency of some kind and where cash is frowned upon or even illegal. The mark of the beast is referenced in Revelation 13, which speaks of how the false prophet causes all to receive a mark in their right hands or foreheads. Here's how that passage reads. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Since the mark of the beast will likely be connected to a digital system that tracks how we buy and sell, preventing anyone from doing so unless they have that mark, paper money would not only be unnecessary, but discouraged and perhaps even banned. A key precursor to the mark would be the digitization of currency, and the United States actually took a big step towards that last year as the Biden administration signaled urgency in researching a potential digital version of the dollar via a central bank digital currency. Of course, none of us are going to prevent the eventual mark of the beast from being instituted and how it will almost certainly be connected to a digital currency that tracks our every transaction. I find myself using cash less and less, often not even carrying any with me in my wallet. This isn't so much a conscious decision to avoid handling paper money as much as how easy it is to pay for everything with a debit or credit card nowadays. But what about you? Do you keep less cash in your wallet these days? Or do you still prefer to use paper money in all of your transactions? Since the mark of the beast is inevitable, is having paper money on hand of importance to you? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for taking a moment to watch, and if videos on Bible prophecy and the Antichrist are of interest to you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to click on the notification bell so you don't miss future updates. As always, please be respectful in your comments, especially towards those with whom you disagree. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon.